Good evening. Once again, the Reentry Perspective here with Miss Sarita, and we have a special guest, Miss Carrie. Here it is, the Reentry Perspective that's giving everybody an insight on some of the challenges that we face on daily day-to-day life after incarceration. So today we're definitely going to be sharing of why the incarcerated are afraid to come home at times. Now I know we have Miss Carrie here that's going to give a powerful story, same with Miss Sarita. And we want y'all to get a total insight on how jailhouse trauma can really intimidate people that are returning to society. So without further ado, Miss Sarita, if you can go ahead and give your brief introduction, then we're going to
Sure.
hand it over to Miss Carrie and we're going to piggyback off her. We really appreciate you all for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Keenan. I am
Mhm.
very, very appreciative to come back and talk a little bit about the formerly incarcerated person's story. Once more, my name is Sarita Tosin. I have a keynote speaking business, my own podcast series. It's called Sarita Talks. Please check it out. And I'm so very grateful and thankful to have known Carrie from the inside and to hear more about her experience when she left.
Okay, so Miss Carrie, you can go ahead and give it away. Let's let them know. Let's know who you are, Miss Carrie. Who you are and where you're from and what did you go through.
My name is Carrie Samuelson. I did a total of 19 years from 1995 to 2014. And then I did a year on paper,
Wow.
which parole.
Hmm.
Um, I went in with a lot of mental health issues, and
Okay.
that in itself is hard in prison.
Wow.
Um, because you can't, you get psychiatric care, but you don't get consistent, They have one medicine pretty much covers everything. And as we
Hmm.
were talking about earlier, there was a state hospital and a hospital for inmates in Fulton called Biggs, but they
Hmm.
could quit sending women there. So when I would have issues, the only thing I could do was check myself into the hole. And
Wow.
then I was at the mercy of the board as
Mm.
to the whole board, the ADSEG, this seg board as to when I got out. Usually
Wow.
The
they knew I
committee. Yeah,
The
the
committee.
committee.
yes.
So Miss
Usually
Carrie, let
they
me ask. Let me ask. So how old were you when you went into prison?
30.
So you
I
were
turned
30
30
years
in
old.
February. Yep, I was 30 when I went in and 49 when I got out.
Oh wow. So you spent almost 2 decades in prison
Yes, sir.
and also in solitary confinement as well.
Mm.
A lot of it was in solitary confinement because I'd have to check in when my mental health issues got bad.
Wow.
And I'd go down there until they could get my medicine adjusted, and then I'd get out.
Hmm.
But when I was out in population in Vandalia, I got a job at the factory and worked my way up to lead.
Okay,
I
so
worked my way up to lead.
I'm sorry, but before you came home, how did it feel when they told you that you were finally going to be released after spending almost 2 decades? Do you feel as though that the programs that you took helped you out? What type of ways did you cope through everything?
Coping, I kept myself busy. Um, I always made sure I had one of the good jobs, like worked in the factory, worked in the kitchen. I always made
Mhm.
sure I had a good job. I took 2 vocational classes before I got out, culinary arts and landscape and gardening,
Mhm.
and took every class there was
Let me
from
just interject. With the amount of
Mhm.
time that me and Carrie had, we
Mhm.
only could really take those 2 classes until you got under beneath 5 years. Was it the same when, because me and you were on the yard for a short period of time before you went home. But
right.
professional
Mhm.
gardening and culinary arts were the only 2 classes that you could take if you had more than 5 years left to do. Once more, another beef I have with, why are you grooming us to either cook in a restaurant or go mow someone's grass? We have marketable skills and they don't always apply to things with our hands. We can use our minds. Don't groom
Gotcha.
us like that.
True, true.
However, I took professional gardening and landscaping too.
Cool, cool. So, Miss Carrot, so I'm sorry, Miss Sarita, I don't mean to
That's
talk
okay. No,
about
I
her
was just
totally
touching on
understand
that.
everything. So when you were transitioning, Miss Carrot, what were the things you were afraid of? Did you have family? Did you have kids? What were some of the things that you had to face once you returned to society?
Well, one thing I was afraid of is I really didn't have family. My mom had passed away, and my dad was living in North Carolina at the time. And we knew, due to what his health condition was, let's see, I got out in 2014 and he passed away in 2020. I was never close to any of my family. My
Mhm,
sister and I were estranged, so I didn't have any family to go home to.
right.
And there was a lot of fears and a lot of scares. And I um, came to St. Louis, never
Mhm,
been on a bus, didn't know what that was like. I went to the Shermer House, which is a halfway house in South St. Louis that has a parole officer. I didn't have to leave, she was on site.
mhm,
And, you know, she, it was just a really scary time because, you know, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do job wise, but I was out
mhm,
28 days and I found a job at Service Stars, which is basically a sweatshop, nothing but parolees and that type of person. And I did that for a year, and I did
mhm.
other temp jobs until 2016 when I got hired on at Jack in the Box in Central West End, and then we moved out here. No, I got on at 2014, and then we moved
Mhm.
out into St. Charles at 2016, and I've been with Jack in the Box or Taco Bell ever since.
Oh
But
wow. So you're still currently working there.
yeah, I'm a shift lead at Taco Bell,
Oh wow.
and I'm starting to take the videotapes to work on becoming an assistant manager. I
Oh,
talked to
that's
my
great.
area coach about that today, and she said, keep pushing next year and we'll see where that heads. But see,
Congratulations.
I have gone back to the Shermer House and given talks to the girls.
Mhm.
Um, I am on the board for Sheena's non-for-profit organization, who was on last week. I'm one of her board members.
Okay.
And I am now on the board for another prison ministry in St. Louis, Pastor Al Long. Did you meet him, Sarita?
I have not. I have not. I came
Uh,
home to Columbia and I'm originally from Kansas City. So if they came into the facility in Chillicothe, then I may have met them. However, a lot of the people who only focused on Vandalia. There's only two women's prisons to give you a little
yeah.
context about the state of Missouri. So one of them is in the south of the state, the other one's in the north of the state, and they're run differently. However, the fact that there's only two, you're going to do the majority of your time mostly at one. So I wasn't in the St. Louis area. I was in Chillicothe Correctional Center, and that's where I met
Gotcha.
Carrie.
Gotcha.
Well,
Yep. Mhm.
I started out at Ren's, the old
Oh,
Ren's. And I mean, when I did that, then they sent me to Chile, and then the old Chile. Then I helped open up the new Chile. And then after my mom died, I transferred back to the old Chile, and then I opened up the new Chile.
Mhm.
So I made my rounds.
Wow.
we
So how
say
many
that
years?
because, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So how many years have you been home now?
I got out in 2000. I've done 9 years out. I was only on paper for one. And in the 9 years, like I said, worked myself up into management. I
Mhm.
have my own car, I have my own apartment. I'm
Wow.
very active in just
Mhm.
whatever I can do to help people coming out of prisons and getting adjusted.
Gotcha.
Um,
Carrie, let me ask you this. What do you think is the biggest problem now for people coming out of prison? Because it's different as time passes, I'm sure. Technology's gone so far. How do you feel when you talk to people that are coming fresh out? What is their biggest obstacle?
fear. They don't know. A lot of them, are my family ready for me?
Mm.
Um, you know, those that have done serious things, will my kids forgive me for, having been in there? Um, Getting established, getting a job. Um, a lot of jobs won't hire felons, you know. When
Mhm.
they say jobs are felon friendly. In fact, when I moved from shift lead or crew member to shift leader at Taco Bell, I got red flagged.
Wow.
I didn't, they said it on the state level in Missouri or in Kansas City, what happened. And I actually had to talk to my manager's manager's manager came in and interviewed me. But I was very honest and direct with him. I didn't focus on the crime. I focused on what I've done since I've been out, and I told him when I was incarcerated that I want a trust level at whatever job I did. I had to sell myself to get that shift leader.
And that is so real.
Mhm.
It's when we come out, we're still held in that same position like, oh no, it's a prisoner,
Mhm.
it's a criminal, it's so and so. You don't know that this is going to happen to you. Keenan and Carrie, I'm sure when you woke up that day, you didn't
Yeah.
think I was going to jail. I
Mhm.
didn't think that. My life changed in an instant. So then when I come out, I expect everyone to know that, hey, I'm me. See me. This is
Yeah.
who I am. And
Yeah.
that's not how that goes.
So how that goes, it's like you get placed in the stereotype. They already
Mhm.
place you as a certain person. They think you're a miscreant. They believe that, oh, you were in a place where all bad people go. But however, a lot of people get the wrong perspective because the only thing they have to view prison is through YouTube or Instagram or wherever the case may
Mhm.
be. But they don't know you got plenty of professionals that are in there. You got plenty of innocent people that are in there, that was placed under there, not under their oath or under their free will. They were just thrown in there because it was a mistaken identity. So, and it's real hard for people to convey that to people because people already just have their mind made up on what society says. It's just like, okay, if
Right.
society says it, or if Simon says it, oh, it must be true because more than one person, or if people are from higher up or in the politics are saying one thing, they're just agreeing with it.
And here's
And
what's so sad is, Carrie, you
mhm,
had been on your job. You had proved your worth.
mhm,
Mhm.
you prove it's been times where I've proved my worth. It was a time. Well, one time what happened was I was working retail, and it was actually a clothing store. And I had proved my worth from working in the department store. So I was becoming department manager. And the crazy thing is, I had been working there for about 5 or 6 months now. And then when someone went to get the raise for the department manager, the store manager sent the paperwork to central office. Central office called back to them and said, "Hey, you got to let that guy go because he's a convicted felon." And you know what I'm saying? And I'm thinking like, hold up, I put all this on the application. I was in total compliance,
Mhm.
but they were saying that they didn't see it or something like that, and it was sad. But I mean, but it was a good thing it happened because I wouldn't have elevated to where I'm at now. But the thing was, but it's like, wow, I proved my worth to you people, being around thousands and thousands of dollars, not
Yes.
stealing anything, and showing that I'm a competent employee. But however, they
Absolutely.
wasn't trying to hear that. And
Well,
sometimes and that can be discouraging. But I couldn't give up there. I had to know that there was something else that was going. So for those who are probably listening now, never give up, even if people, close the door in your face, because there's always something better for you down the line, especially if you believe. So and one quick question, I don't mean to take up all the time. I want to piggyback, because I know that there's some females that are watching this. I know from the prisons that they usually say that they allow to watch in certain groups or something. But long story short, I know you both have children, and you said that I know that you said that it was an issue when you went to prison. There were certain things that that y'all had to do before you went to prison concerning your children. What type of obstacles, and rather Miss Sarita or Miss Cara, if you want to go first, what type of obstacles did you have to face when you had to either one, leave your children out here in society by themselves, or two, what type of obstacles you had once you had to return home to face them?
Well, I can chime in, or
go ahead.
Okay. When I left, my son was 10 years old, and by the grace of God, my mother, who was still working, and my stepfather, who was 66 at that time, got my son and made sure he was okay. And let me tell you, that 66-year-old man raised my son for me. And my son came to pick me up when he was 24. 14 years had passed by. There was a program within the facility called Patch Program. And through that program, I was able to raise my son from prison. And that's basically what it was. It was a separate visiting room. It was a different opportunity so he could see me in a different light. Actually, if anyone is listening, please check it out, www.chillicothepatch.org. Excuse me, everyone who's listening, because they should be. www.patch.org, or excuse me, chillicothepatch.org. And it was basically the only way that I was able to build a strong bond with my son, because your kids are traumatized going in the visiting room. They treat your children like they are an inmate. They treat your mother like they are an inmate. They treat your grandma like they are an inmate. Can you imagine? You've never been in trouble with the law, and in order to go visit your daughter, you have to go through a pat search. You have to empty your pockets. This isn't the airport. The same is being done to 3 and 4-year-old children. And guess, I didn't even know how bad it was until the day I left, because you leave through the visiting room. So I was so glad there was a program that I was able to participate in. And my son even made videos for the program, just because it was such a wonderful experience. But then again, let me juxtapose that to roommates that I had that didn't know where their kids were, whose kids were in the system. So my time was not easy. I was there 14 and a half years, but I know it was better than some, because I knew where my child was.
Gotcha.
So I'm on the flip side. I had to put my son up for adoption.
Wow.
So he was in foster care, and the couple that had him when I got sentenced wanted to and did adopt him. Unfortunately, that was when he was 6. When he was 12, his dad, who had no business getting him back, found a loophole with his lawyer and got my son back. So my ex-husband, who's passed away, he raised my son. And after I got out, we made contact. And he said, "Mom, I forgive you, but I want to take this relationship at my pace." And I've let him.
Okay.
But he said, as far as my dad, he was my father, but he was not a dad. I will never speak negative about him, his dad, to him. But I know he went through a lot of trauma himself. And something I really want to bring up, though, is 92% of women who have been incarcerated and are incarcerated are victims of sexual, mental, physical, or verbal abuse. And a lot of times their crimes is a downfall of that. Mine was. I was sexually abused growing up. I had physical, mental, emotional abuse. I was in a very bad, battered marriage. And that had a lot of play on my mind frame the day I committed my crime. But, there should be more help for women while they're incarcerated to get healing for that abuse, so that when they come out, they're able to function in society.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me touch back on the 2 women's prisons. I want to say altogether, there's 24 prisons in the state of Missouri, and there's only 2 for women. So we don't get near the amount of money, funding, resources, programming that the men do, because there's only 2 facilities. So trauma, healing, counseling, just anything that is viable that we need to succeed, we don't get it in near the amounts that we should, and we don't get it in near the amounts in comparison to the male population, because there's so much money, as we all know, from warehousing inmates, But if you're a man, then you can learn how to take apart a diesel truck and put it together and drive it all while you're in the facility. You can learn
Learn how to
go ahead.
welding. They have
You can
welding
learn all
classes.
sorts of marketable skills that are going to get you big money. And what did me and Carrie learn? How to landscape and garden.
Wow.
Or sew two pieces of material together. Neither one of us are ever going to work in a sewing factory.
Yeah, but I tell you this, I had to sew 276 pairs of male's boxer shorts.
I don't mean to laugh at that, but yeah, I totally.
That's exactly what I did.
And I know that it varies from like state to state and what they offer. And of course, but there's some similar restrictions. Like you said, if somebody's serving 20, 30 years, they have a longer time to get into the class versus somebody that's going to be released in 2 years. So here it is, you're wasting a lot of time not developing skills, if not self-taught. But at the same time, like I said, in Pennsylvania, they had different like machine shops, they had sewing shops, shoe shops, they had different shops as well. Like me, I took plumbing and things like that. I was able to, and sometimes I used to have to bully my way in to try to get in some of those classes because sometimes they'll try to play you. But when you show that you were adamant, you were serious,
right?
That's how I was able to get my business certification. That's how I was able to get my computer certification, my Money Smart certification, my OSHA, if you see even the culinary arts, my NOCTI test, so I had to really try to show them like, look, plus I was a kid, I was a juvenile, I was 15, 16 years old coming up in the state prison. Was like, but then at the same time, they said if you were under the age of 18, you had to go to school. And before I went upstate, I was able to obtain my high school diploma, which was a good thing because now it put me ahead of the game. So here it was. I was actually fortunate because I applied myself. I actually wanted to change my life, and I actually applied myself and was able, to get a lot. Even though I was doing a lot of time, I was able to get a lot of the courses and the education that I was able to get.
But you touched on something very important. You had to fight for it.
I had to fight for it. Oh yeah, I had to put.
Yeah. We have to fight to better ourselves.
Yeah, you had to get to the principal. You had to say, "Look, I understand. Look, I'm doing a lot of time. Look, because even when they said, because they had asked you, "Oh, what's your max date?" and all this, that, and the third. When I told my max date, they looked at me, and I'm thinking like, "Yeah," I said, "but I still want to get in these classes."
Absolutely.
So, and next thing you know, it would clicking. But again, and like anybody listening, I wouldn't allow that to hinder you from learning something or skill, something in the book. I know you can't learn much tech-wise because they don't like a lot of the technology going in there. But with the tripods and the not the tripods, the tablets and things like that. I know they're letting a little buy in, but I'm a musician.
Yeah.
So I learned to play music while I was incarcerated. That wasn't something that I learned when I was a kid. I actually learned it while I was incarcerated. I studied all the books. So when I do go into like certain colleges or something and talk to some of the music, sometimes they say, "Yo, where did you go to school at to play music?" And I'm thinking like school on Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
So a lot of it came by ear, but I could still read it and write it and teach it because I studied it tit for tat, the theoretical part of music composition, everything. So, but I still play by ear and things like this. So that made another stream and another way for me to be able to support myself out here in the world because there's always a demand for musicians. And I don't mean to go down that rabbit hole.
Well, no. I just like the whole perspective. And I really wish that people would try and change their whole way of thinking to formulate this, that they're meeting Sarita, they're meeting Keenan, they're meeting Carrie, and we fought to become better people. That institution did not help me become a better person. Everything that I was trying to actively do, I was stopped by the fact that I already had college credits. So guess what? I became a GED tutor, so I could learn along with the students. These are the steps you have to insert yourself into ways. And that wasn't a program when me and Carrie sewed those boxer shorts and things that were sold throughout. They sold each pair of those for $4 and some change. And let me tell you, I made 50 cents an hour and worked 10-hour days in a factory, $5 a day.
They had, because let's see, when I got incarcerated, They did have a computer programming. In fact, Patty Pruitt was in that program. And they decided that the women don't need to be doing that.
Wow.
She wrote a lot of the programs for DOC. She wrote the programs, and so did the other people. But they decided that the women didn't need that. Janice Moore, Janice Moore, and Patty Pruitt were both in that, and they were making some money. See, if you don't have your GED in the state of Missouri, you get $7.50 a month.
Mm-hmm.
If you have your GED, you get $8.50 a month.
To live
So
off.
unless you're on work release, which only certain people qualified, and or the factory, which you made 50 cents an hour unless you were a lead. I mean a day, unless you were a lead, then you got 71 cents.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have that kind of money
$7.10 for a 10-hour day.
If you didn't have
The
that money
factory.
money coming in from the outside, okay, if you got $7.50 a month, that barely bought your deodorant and toothpaste.
Absolutely. And you know, everybody's like, oh, they give you everything you need. Do they?
They do not.
No.
Nope.
No.
Especially, like you said, especially with the programming. And I respect that, okay, they want a certain type of program and regimen that you should complete prior to your release. But at the same time, like you said, when you look at the people that are designing these programs, a lot of them may have degrees and things like that, but at the same time, the experience pretty much outweighs the degrees, if you ask me.
Right.
Because if you've never been in a trauma type of situation,
how can you address it?
Or a conflict resolution or something like that, it's like, how can you teach somebody how to return to society or how to deal with the situation when they're down and out, they don't have nothing, everything was taken off of them, how to survive? You can't.
Hey guys,
it's just not going to register.
Give me 5 seconds. I got to grab my charger because my tablet's about to die. I'll be right back.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, I just want to say, when that tablet came out in the penitentiary, I want to say it was 2018. And I was in a room. Nobody had time like I did in this room. They, it was actually two sisters on one side of the room, and they were young, a couple years, and nobody had done. So I got this tablet. And I was on it, I was swiping and just stuff I'd seen on TV. And I was so mesmerized. And I remember the girl looked at her sister. She said, look at Sarita. Look at how excited she is. So I'm on there and I'm just typing things. I'm sending emails to my son. And I said, how do I make a frown face? And they showed me. But it was just this wonderment that I had something new, something different, something that was like the free world, and that I could understand and do it. Like, as you can see, my nose gets red when I'm about to cry, because it was just such a moment to have something that was kind of like people out there. And I had never been able to send an email. It was a wonderful time. And it was also something that made it easier for me to get out and navigate a phone. Now, I mean, my skills weren't all that, but it was a beginning. Oh, Lord, hers went out. My lights went out. Just one moment.
That's all good. Yeah, and piggybacking, I know they left the screen, but piggybacking off of that, like you said, even coming home, because when I went to prison, they were just getting like flip phones.
Yeah.
Flip phones, and then I think it was like literally the just getting cameras on the phone. So now when I come home to this new age, you got tablets, you got iPads, you got a lot of different things. Somebody told me one time, you got to get the Bluetooth. I thought I had to go to the dentist to get it. I didn't know what a Bluetooth was.
Right.
And they explained it. I'm thinking like, whoa, like, where's this technology going? Then I'm starting to learn that nothing's private anymore. Right. Everybody geared towards the tech thing. So if you're not tech savvy out here, a lot of people are going to lose. If you're not,
and it's embarrassing because you don't know what to ask, because you don't want to say something that's going to make. Someone asked me for an HDMI plug because I worked in an office, and I had no idea what he meant. So I just went to people's offices and asked them, "Hey, do you have an HDMI?" because
yeah.
that way I knew that and then someone asked me for a junk drive. I didn't know what these things were.
Junk drive.
And
I
I
don't
was
know what junk drive.
oh, it's just a flash drive that you can put
Oh,
something
flat.
on.
Oh,
Yeah,
something like this, like a flash drive.
exactly, but they call it a junk drive. So when
Oh,
they
yeah,
asked me, I would say, I really don't. Let me go ask someone else because I didn't want to be stupid, and I didn't know who I could trust to
yeah,
ask who wasn't going to
yeah.
laugh or,
Judge you. Because, and that's one of the biggest things too. Like, you'll be genuine to ask somebody, right?
yeah,
But however, you know that the people, like a lot of people out here, they'll look at you in a way of like, dang, are you retired or something? Like, but no, I
yes,
really don't know. So I'm asking you so you can help me. I
Yeah.
had people laugh at me. I had people
When I
laugh
got
at me,
out,
you know.
when I got out, okay, when I got incarcerated in 1995, we didn't have cell phones.
right.
When I got out in 2014, I had to teach myself how to use the cell phone.
Mhm,
I went to the public library to teach myself how to use a computer.
mhm.
I remember asking one of the librarian helpers one day something, and he said, "You're not going to blow it up. We'll help you." You know, I was like, "What if I get this button wrong?" You
Oh,
know,
that's a good
when
guy.
we heard about Blackberries, when we heard, the president has a Blackberry, I thought, well, what's a Blackberry? You know, and
Right.
then they had MP3 players, they had this, they had that. When I got incarcerated, um, I think uh, we still had CD player, you know.
And pagers.
Technology advanced in so much in those 19 years, and I'm
Mhm.
still teaching myself how to do stuff. I just got a Chrome notebook and I went and on Amazon had somebody send me the Chrome notebook for dummies because I
Mhm.
had it
Um,
And
myself.
and
And
that's
I
what.
was locked up. I was locked up 19 years. So when I got out, I lived in St. Louis, so I just rode the bus. But when I came here to St. Charles, there's no bus system in here.
Mhm.
So I had to teach myself how to drive. I had to learn how to drive all over again. I had to take the test. I failed that thing twice. And in the state of Missouri, if you fail it 3 times,
you gotta
you
wait.
have to go to driver's school, then petition Jefferson City to get to retake the test. So I played it smart. After failing it twice, I called a guy that taught driver's ed to homeschoolers. And we took 2 lessons, and he said, "You just got test phobia. That's all your problem is." And I walked in there and passed the test.
Yeah, that's
So,
great.
I've had to teach myself so much since
Yeah.
I've been out.
Mhm.
I try and
And
liken it to this. I tell a story. I said, when I went away, they didn't have Facebook. People were using MySpace. Okay. I had a nice phone. It was a flip phone. It was Motorola. When I opened it up, it said Telemoto, and the Motorola Razor was what
Mhm.
everybody wanted. So if that'll put things in perspective for you, I came out in late 2022. So the skills that I have now are, I mean, I'm feeling good, but I'm still struggling because I've lost 15 years.
Yeah.
I've lost those 15 years. Now I've gained a lot as a person, but that's another thing. If someone laughs at you or they look at you like, why do you need to know this? Then you have to tell them because I don't know. I'd never had the opportunity to learn. I was incarcerated. So now I have to tell you my background for you to
Mhm.
understand why I'm lacking this knowledge that someone at 44 years old should know.
And a lot of times they won't even care anyway. They just want to be nosy.
Yeah.
So it's like, and
Yeah.
that's that just shows like that's like some of the people that you don't want to be around. Like you
Right.
don't want to because people are being judgmental, and then once they see the gifts or the value you bring to the table, now all of a sudden tables change. So a lot of times, all we can do is just be us.
Yeah.
Don't go in a room as nobody else. Go in as yourself.
Yeah.
If they accept you, they accept you. If not, hey, I don't. It's not meant to be. If the energy is not right, it's not meant to be. I don't care who you are. I don't care what title you have, how much money you have. It does not matter. If your energy is not met, no, I got to go. I can't. No,
That's right.
because people. That's how society is. A person will ask you. They will ask you what you do for a living just to see how much respect they'll give you.
Wow.
Always remember that. They're going to ask you what you're doing for a living just to see how much respect they'll give you. Because we live in an illusion world. Just because if I pull up in a certain car, whether it be Escalade or whether it be a nice Benz or something like that, people will judge you off of what you drive.
Yeah.
When I had a Chevy Lumina, 1990 Chevy Lumina, I wasn't, and that was back when, a year after I came home. When I had that, people weren't saying hello. But then there was one day I went on a date where I rented a Charger. And this was like 6 years ago. I rented a Charger. I got so many compliments from the car. And I'm thinking like, hold up. I was just driving this other thing. But no, people don't care about that. But that's why we got to always see those who were there when you were at the bottom, when you didn't have anything. That's very important, so and that's how this world is. That's why you got to be able to be vigilant. You got to be able to discern. You got to be able to say, okay, if your spirits, because again, bad company corrupts good morals. So whoever you want to keep in your circle, keep in your circle. But don't blame yourself, because if you knew somebody was a snake or seen or had snake vibes, bit you because you didn't want to let them go.
It's that circle of excellence.
Yeah.
That circle of excellence. And you know what? A lot of people are turning their back on some of the most excellent people because they might have a past, because they might be a convicted felon, because they might have done time, because they've been to jail a few times and they didn't get it right. And I didn't go a few times, but I know plenty of good-hearted, beautiful people who were, battling with addiction. I said, God is still working on their testimony. They're still working on their testimony. Whatever you believe in, it's still forming these people. They're still on the wheel. They're being formulated. Don't cut someone out because you might be entertaining someone that one day might hire you.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. As Miss Carrie had mentioned, she's mentioned how she had to start everything over and things like that. And was probably even intimidated to ask somebody, hey, could you help? Because people were probably looking with the side eye. But like you said, you be careful how you treat people, because that very same person may be the one that may give you your last cup of water.
Just to touch on what you were saying too, Keenan, when that door closed, it opened up for where you're at now.
Absolutely. That's it.
That is why In Prison Did Not Break Me, we have a Facebook page. And, when Sarita announced that she had gotten her own podcast and that, I make sure when I find out one of my girls are doing something good, it gets posted on Prison Did Not Break Me, because it inspires other people to push forward. But then when I get that message from someone that says, I just got out and the only thing they're offering me is the only thing I can do is get a job at a fast food, take that job at that fast food and flip them burgers to the best of your ability, because you don't know when you're going to climb up and what you're going to do. And it's once you surround your tribe affects your vibe, and your vibe affects your tribe. You gotta watch who you're hanging with, and you've got to make sure. What is it? How can you fly with eagles when you're walking around with turkeys? No, you get up there at the level that the eagles are on, and I have mentors, and they have inspired me to push to the next level.
Wow.
In fact, I think it was August or September, I was on a podcast, and they were interviewing a lady who had been my mentor in prison. I met her in 2000, and they were talking about her prison ministry. And about halfway through, I came on, and Monica Adams asked how we met. And my mentor paused, and I said, well, we met in prison. And I got to tell my story in that podcast. Then when I hung up, I realized after I got off that podcast, for the first time in my life since I've been out, I put it on Facebook Live and on YouTube that I had done 19 years in prison. I was no longer ashamed of that fact.
Yes, and it felt good too.
It opened up some doors. It has, and you've got to, that is what my goal is, In Prison Did Not Break Me. If somebody contacts us and says, hey, I'm way out here in Michigan, will you find somebody in Michigan that you can connect with? And you've got if you don't look out for each other as you get out, if you as parolees and people that have been off parole, whatever,
Mhm.
you're not looking out for each other, nobody else is going to look out for you,
Nobody else will.
you know.
That's true.
And but you've just got to surround yourself with positive people. I'm
Yeah.
very spiritual, and I'm a big advocate for Celebrate Recovery right now.
Mhm.
I'm about ready to finish the step study, and next year I get to give my testimony. It's kind of like getting up in AA and talking, but I get
Mhm.
to give my testimony, and hopefully I'm gonna be going on a podcast to tell my Celebrate Recovery story, my prison story. And I found out the man said his podcast goes into 2 million tablets in the prisons. You know,
Mhm.
we're working on Sarita and I and Sheena and some others. We want to go back into Chillicothe. We want to
Mhm.
go back in and talk to those girls about how to come
Yes,
out and have successful reentry. And
that's
Sheena
very
wants me to go back in on the spiritual end, you know, teaching these girls goals and how to succeed in setting goals, you know. Um,
Mhm.
if you've been in there and been out, you know, I faced the depression and the suicidal thoughts when I got out, just like Sheena was talking about last week.
Oof.
If it hadn't have been for the people that had been in my shoes that would grab my hand and pull me up out of that pit, but they can only pull you up so far. Then you got to grab on and pull yourself up the rest of the way. It's a
Right.
Absolutely.
fight, you know?
That's powerful.
That's right.
That's very
And
powerful. And
whatever it takes, you've got to start working on your mind. You've got to start working on the
absolutely.
way you think. Because in prison, there's so many things that happen that have no type, they don't make any sense. They don't make any sense. On the officer side, on the offender side, whatever you want to call it, there's nothing offensive about us. But on the other side, it's just, it blows your mind. And you're like, oh my God, what is going on here? I've got to
Mhm.
just steel myself and know that I can make it. Know that I
Absolutely. And you too, and like I said, if nobody ever told you guys, that you guys are doing a wonderful job, by being out here, you decide to take that step of life. There's so many people that cannot function when they come out here. There's so many people that once they get turned away from that one job, they decide to go back on drugs. There's so many people that, when life hits them, they don't know what to do. But you
Mhm.
guys are striving. Serena, you're starting a podcast. Miss
Yeah.
Carrie, you want to share your testimony. And I myself, I got approved to speak in the prisons here in Pennsylvania, which is a
That's
great thing. I just spoke at one not too long ago at a graduation and things like that. And here it was individuals that I used to know and I was in prison with. And for
yeah.
them to see me doing the things that I'm doing, they're like, wow, very inspired. So I'm definitely all for um, forming some type of collabo where we can probably go into each state, because I know there's plenty of directors that
Yes.
are watching now from all different parts of the prison system. And I know that we can go in and, by storm, because I know there's a lot that, women can learn from women, men can learn from men, but then vice versa. Women can learn things from the men, and the men can teach things to the women as well. So we going in as a team until, it can really make a huge impact. You
Yes.
know what I
Strength in
mean?
numbers.
That's strength in
And the
numbers.
struggle is the same. I'm telling you, Keenan knows. I told
Mhm.
Carrie that denture cup from the last time we were on
Yeah,
here, didn't
from
watch it, you
Drew.
need to
Yeah.
watch it. It is something that messes with your mind because respect, respect, respect. And then when you get out here, everything's different. The some of the core experiences, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you're a juvenile, they're the same.
Yeah, yeah.
And the same experiences we're having out here and being successful and triumphant,
Mm-hmm.
let us in there to tell them how to do it.
That's
That
great.
that life experience. You can't have a PhD in doing time unless you've done it.
Yes, you've
Yes,
done it.
you
Absolutely. So if y'all would like to give any type of takeaways or giveaways to somebody that's watching now, especially those who are incarcerated now are watching this, and those who are probably like in halfway houses working their way through transitioning, what would you like? What would you both like to say to them?
Harry?
When I was in county jail, I was looking at putting my son up for adoption. We were doing mental health screening to see, if I was what I was going to do as far as a plea and everything else. And I got on the phone and I called my dad, and I was crying, and I said, Dad, I can't do this. I said, I know I'm going away for a while. I know I'm not going to see my son. I know this and that. My dad said to me, how do you eat an elephant? And I went, I'm pouring my heart out to you, Daddy, and you asking me how I eat an elephant. Seriously, how do you eat an elephant? And I said, I don't know. He said, one bite at a time.
Mm.
And I carried that through incarceration, and I'm carrying it through me out here. It's one bite at a time and one step. And when we got my answer, and in February of 2014, right before I got out, because I got out in October, my dad sent me a birthday card, and he says, well, he told me, he said, well, how do you like being at the end of the elephant? And I said, Daddy, we're not at the end of the elephant. We're at the beginning, because the end of the elephant was where all the crap was. That was the hard part. I says, we're in the trunk, the trunk of the elephant. He said, so he sent me a birthday card, and it said, now we're at the head of the elephant. You want to make some souse meat? And I carry that with me now,
Mm.
when something's going on and I don't know how I'm going to fight it, I just take that first bite of that elephant. Sometimes you got to grab you some barbecue sauce. Sometimes you got to grab you some Frank's Red Hot and pour ketchup on it, pour gravy on it, whatever. But you just do it one step at a time. But you also, when you see somebody struggling, you don't just let them struggle.
Oh,
As
yeah.
the old saying goes, that song said, lean on me, because we don't ever know.
Mhm.
We need someone to lean on. So it's an individual, but yet it's a collective and a community thing.
Right. I just want to touch on that because there's some people that we both know that haven't come home yet. Patty Pruitt, when you mentioned her name, Patty Pruitt, Innocence Project, trying to work with her, trying to get her out. All sorts of evidence, nothing. Brenda Williams, Sandy Hemming.
She's getting a new trial, by the way.
I know she
Bertha,
is, but just want to
Bertha
put her
Owens.
out there. Ann Delaney,
Bertha Owens.
Bertha Owens, Verna Jones. There's just people who have been locked up so long. Shirley Phillips. These people are in wheelchairs, 80 plus years old. Let them go. Brenda Williams, Shirley Phillips, Verna. And then, we've lost some people. Vera Palmer,
We just lost Muggs.
I know.
Just lost Margaret Hodges.
61 years old. 61 years old. So you know how they say, how you just said, if you want to do something, you got to help somebody else. We got friends, we got people we know who have been there too long, get them out. But I also want to thank people that have helped me since I've been out. Diana Ratliff, your friend on the web, has made me an awesome website for Sarita Talks. But I'd like to, come back on, Keenan, one time and talk about the people who haven't got their chance yet. And we need to make sure they get it.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Sharon.
And we need to get Patty Pruitt's daughter on here, Jane. Jane Pruitt Watkins. She fights for her mom every day. That girl fights for her mom all the time. She goes in and sees her. She goes in for the food visits, the performing arts.
Dr. Phil.
We got to get Jane on here, and you talk to her. They were on Dr. Phil.
Yeah. And Dr. Phil's been to Chillicothe so many times. Chris Como's been to Chillicothe. Go ahead.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard got out today.
That's right, Gypsy.
And she's fixing to write her. She's got a book and a follow-up. But that girl, she knows what she did was wrong, but she, should have turned her mom in, but she's ready to get out and start over. It just. And then today is a year since one of our girls that got out, Jill Buxton. This was a year ago today that she was in a car wreck and died, and
doing great. Yeah.
A bunch of us went to Kansas City. Sheena and I went home to represent and see her family for the funeral, but it just, you don't quit knowing each other when you get out, you form a family. But one thing I want to see stop, and that's what us old heads used to call life on the installment plan. These girls that come in and out, that revolving door, they're in and out because they don't learn how to cope once they get out here.
Well, who's teaching them though, Carrie? Who's teaching them? We can leave on that note.
Yeah. And I know we're narrowing down. We're like close to like the 10-minute mark.
Yeah.
But it's definitely very important when we pour in to these individuals to transition. As Miss Carrie said, is one bite at a time, one step at a time. There's nothing that's just going to come overnight. It's not going to happen. There may be some things you may be lucky enough to get, and be blessed to get, but at the same time, things come in increments. You got to be patient. Know that life, yes, the world goes round, but the world doesn't just go around you. It doesn't revolve around you. So get, like you mentioned earlier, get a good mentor. You get around people that are doing positive things. Some people may turn their back on you, but you don't stop there. It's not the end of the world. You keep pushing. You keep striving. There's plenty of people that I thought was an influence, of society. Some big social media people, big influencers, where once I got around them and I asked them certain things, their attitudes were like, Ben, I'm thinking like, wow. But again, you can't get caught up because you see something on camera and you think that people are going to just, and they could be exactly where you came from. But again, you never forget where you come from, because everything that you have can be snatched from you just like that.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that we all have a lot of, all of us are busy. We have lives, but again, making the time for people, making the time, whereas, you can help people and give them that little advice, a boost of encouragement, that can go a long way, and people don't understand that, so.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Mhm.
Keenan. Keenan gave me a voice. He gave me a voice. I got a hold. I saw him on LinkedIn, formerly incarcerated person, got a hold of him. He said, hey, you want to, banter back and forth on my show? I said, absolutely. I want my voice out there. And it's
Absolutely.
that hand up. We don't need a hand out. I used to tell people, I don't need a hand out. I need a hand up. I'll work.
That's how you do it. And that's great. So yeah, and same here. Like if you guys, just in general, need me or need me to contact somebody or something, we can always collaborate and look to grow, because we're here to make a difference. We're not doing this just to, oh, look at me on TV. No, we're doing this because we really are concerned about people that were in the predicaments we once were in. So it's very profound, how we're connecting the dots, then going into the new year and things like that. We've already started. So we're not here looking for that. So, so yeah. So without further ado, if you guys want to give your last accolades and what you guys do, you can drop it in the chat. I'll be sure to share it. Go ahead. Y'all can give it off, and whoever y'all want to shout out.
All right. Well, we're going to have to definitely have Patty's daughter on, like you said, Carrie. But I want to once more thank Diana Ratliff, your friend on the web. I want to thank Evan Foster for always being so supportive with Partner Up, and also the Comedy Club of Columbia. I also want to thank Valerie Berta, the We Project. I want to thank Barb Burden for chillicothepatch.org. And please donate. All right.
Cool. Miss Carrie?
I would like to thank, first of all, the people that have been personal in my life. My mentor, Janice Frick. I'd like to thank Sheena for the voice that she does. She's been to Washington. She's been to Springfield, I really want to say thank you, Sheena, for everything she's done since she's been out. She's been a light and inspiration, And I'd like to thank Pastor Alfred Long and his wife, Casey Starlong, for being a support. Shoot, if I named all the people that have been a support, we'd be on here for another 2 hours. God really blessed me when I got out. I've got people in Kansas City, people in Alaska, just who've been there for me. And, but I tell them when I go back into the prisons, like they were there to support me, and I go back in to support these girls, I'm taking a piece of them in with me. I'm taking the things they helped me with, and I'm taking them going back in. And that's just, I want to go in and just show these people, so, but my accolades, if I gave them out, we'd be here all night. So if I didn't mention someone's name, just know I appreciate you.
That's right.
But, and I'm very proud of Sarita, since she's been out. She ain't been out that long. I feel like she's my daughter. And every time she shows something on Facebook, it's like, yeah, keep pushing it, girl.
Carrie is one of my number one supporters. I
So,
appreciate
but,
you.
if that's what I'm here for, is to be the mom and the grandma and the cheerleader, I'm just going to keep cheering them on,
Thanks.
and see where we're going. I'm proud of you, Keenan, for everything. I've just started, Sarita hooked me up to you. I've been doing some reading, watching some of your podcasts. I want to read your book.
That's
Yes,
right.
thank
On
you.
Amazon. Buy it on Amazon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Or you
Name
can
of
go
the
to my
book, Keenan?
website.
Name of
Yeah,
the
or
book?
you can go to my website, or KeenanHudson.com. You can go there and
Okay.
purchase as well. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for that support. And like I said, I know this is not the last time we're going to be here involved with the podcast. It's much more that's coming. And I can't wait for both of you to publish your book as well. Like I said, I know that'd be great.
That's right.
There's strength in numbers. We can even collaborate and do a book as well.
Love it. Yeah.
So there's a lot, we just got to be determined in what we want to do and what we want to accomplish. And we'll get it done. So
All right.
without further ado, I think we'll just go ahead and end this broadcast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate everybody. Everybody have a great night. And it's getting late, but it's all good.
Yeah.
All right. So